and welcome to Borgcast 15.6, Picard number 6, with Anne-Marie and Peter.
Yeah, or Picard, as everybody seems to want to call it except you, it turns out.
Oh, I've explained, he's not Captain Picard. It's the Picard for Picard.
We have some...
Previously on Star Trek Picard.
We've heard from Jeff. He says, "Hello again. I believe the episode title's rag refers to ragtime music, where a song might be described as rag, for example, the Frog Legs rag, or the Peaches and Cream rag."
Right.
Right.
Doesn't leave me any more the wiser,
No.
really. Why?
Oh, isn't... Isn't that a rag thing?
What's that got to do with the episode?
I don't know.
Because there wasn't music like that in the episode, was there?
Was there? I don't know.
No.
Sorry, still lost. He says, "Thanks to your wonderful podcast, I was chortling every time someone said vajazzle." That's a joke that's stuck with me for a long time now.
Yeah.
I sure had a lot of fun with this episode. Space casinos, high space shenanigans, a Quark name drop, Patrick Stewart hamming it up like a B-grade Bond villain, and deep cut Voyager references. I'm surprised anyone remembered it, Cheb. Voyager even forgot about him after a while.
Yeah. There'll be more Voyager references tonight as well.
It was cool seeing 7 of 9 again, even if she was never my favourite character from what was never my favourite Trek. I thought Jerry Ryan did a great job, so clearly my problem wasn't with the actor. However, I was discussing the episode with one of my best friends, and he found her portrayal as badass renegade to be far removed from the budding scientist who loved the harmony of scientific pursuits. I was half joking when I voiced suspicions of Agnes Jurati's loyalties and was surprised it was revealed so quickly. Mm-hmm. It's interesting that she does seem to believe she's acting for the greater good rather than her personal self-interest. There was a brief shot of a guy who looked kind of like Thor with holographic angel wings in Vajazzle's bar.
Oh, yes.
I only bring this up because it brought to mind some aspects of Samuel R. Delaney's Babel 17. Absolutely, yes. Which Anne-Marie brought up way back during your coverage of DS9's Beyond the Farthest Star. It was a book I thoroughly enjoyed and wanted to say thanks for recommending it. Cool. On Elnor, rather than finding him elvish, I find he has a very Chinese wuxia look to him. He wouldn't look out of place in an old Shaw Brothers swordplay film, which I really like, as sci-fi sword wielders usually go in a more samurai direction. I find it very amusing that the two silly British sitcoms that have been mentioned so far, Last of the Summer Wine and A Low, are ones I'm actually familiar with. If Are You Being Served, Keeping Up Appearances, and As Time Goes By come up, that will complete the set.
Wow, okay.
As always, I very much appreciate your coverage and for letting me play along. Good luck keeping up with all the new Trek and Galactica. Until next time. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Good to hear from you, Jeff. And I think the idea is that poor Seven has seen some stuff between the end of Voyager and this point, which has made her a rather, more battle-hardened character than she was then, to say the least.
She's kind of become more Janeway, hasn't she?
A little bit, yes. We also heard from Andy Polistides on the Twitters. He pointed out that in the First Contact novelisation, Picard still has implants, which he fears might be activated again, which would certainly explain how he's able to hear the Borg and understand them so well in the film, so makes sense.
It does.
We've also heard from Martin on episodes 1 to 5.
Okay.
Hello there, Orgs, it's Martin here. My apologies, I have been meaning to feedback before on Picardcast or Piecast or Piecrust. Yes, that's it, Piecrust. Strong and tough on the outside, but meaty on the inside. I don't think that actually works. Bottom line, anyway, we're about 5 episodes in, and I'm quite enjoying it so far. I'm really intrigued to see how it goes. I know some people have been saying, "Oh, it's all just a lot of people standing around talking in rooms," and I have to wonder whether these are the same people that have said that Discovery's too fast and quick and all style over substance. I don't know whether it seems we can get the mix right at all, but we're in space now, and I'm liking how it continues along with the crew in the space. We kind of got you've got a ragtag bunch of people, and I do wonder whether the kind of the grimier starship aesthetic is more to do with the continuing influence of Guardians of the Galaxy. I mean, obviously, it wasn't the first series to do like a grimy starship aesthetic. We had that in Nostromo, in Alien, and also the Millennium Falcon. But I suppose for this iteration, and I suppose he's quite new for Star Trek as well. I did mean to say, obviously, I'm fairly new to a lot of this. I feel this is accessible enough for newcomers, although there are bits and pieces that make me think, oh, should I know about that? Is there something I need to know? Should I have watched this? Yeah, but he doesn't feel inaccessible. He doesn't feel that I need to have seen, season 6, episode 5 to fully get the benefit of what's happening on screen. But then I also like listening to podcasts like this, or doing here are all the Easter eggs videos on YouTube, which is very interesting, and I quite like that. Kind of fills me in on the backstory, these things. Yeah, going back to the crew, yep, I quite like Dr. Girardi. I think she's brought a much needed bit of comedy into the crew, although saying that, the ending of the last episode was, yes, that's very intriguing, isn't it? That's a bit of a dark turn. I also know Santiago Cabrera as the captain. I thought he's very good so far. I remember him mainly from Heroes and from the Musketeers. Also see that we have Lieutenant Rizzo the Rat. She's been played by Peyton List, who I thought was quite familiar, and it turns out she was one of the iterations of Poison Ivy in Gotham. There's another thing as well, Narek, the Romulan on board the Borg cube, which I'm finding very atmospheric. The Borg cube, I'm quite liking a lot of the scenes there. Does he remind anyone else of Ethan Peck, who played young Spock in Star Trek Discovery? He does me when I see him. I also wanted to comment on, Daj. It's interesting that Daj was, I think, an example of the false regular trope that's now happening. I mean, to be honest, it's no real surprise that she had a sister, because we kind of want to continue. I mean, I always thought that she would end up respawning or regenerating somewhere, and we continue on with the character that way. But again, now the hunt for her sister has kind of kicked the plot into gear a bit. And speaking of plot reasons, it's still very bizarre that Picard has his study on board the ship, which makes me wonder if they're trying to save a bit of budget by keeping a standing set there. Maybe we'll see that gone at the end of the first season. Who knows when they strike it. I did read an interview recently, and apparently they want to go for 3 seasons with this. And one of the stipulations in Patrick Stewart's contract was that he didn't have to wear a uniform, and there were not going to be any uniforms. He's been brilliant so far, Patrick Stewart, although he does sound quite old now. I did wonder, because I still listen to him on American Dad. He plays a deputy director of the CIA, Avery Bullock, and his very crazy character. And it's interesting seeing him kind of having to divert power to the captain of the ship as well, when he's used to just demanding that things are on screen or engage. I will just want to briefly say about the most important topic of the day, which is the buttons. I don't know whether there's still fashion designers in a utopia. Maybe there are. I don't know whether the buttons are functional. Sometimes we do get things that aren't, just buttons or little pocket flaps that we stuck on clothes that aren't functional. Maybe someone saw the buttons and thought, I want to bring them back. Fashions change, things go in and out. People, old things come back. And also, I noticed the trend recently, in recent years, in dresses and skirts. Rather than having like the smaller sort of invisible zips, you've had the big fuck off metal zips have made a comeback, and which is marginally easier at times to use. So I'll just end on this note. Was there really a character in the last episode called Vajazzle? Right, I will hopefully be able to... Cheers, bye.
Bye. Thank you.
It was Bajazzle, but yeah, everybody heard Vajazzle.
Yes, everybody did hear Vajazzle. I'm wondering, with Patrick Stewart, whether he's deliberately making his character sound older.
Yeah, so you've raised that before, and I think there is a possibility. I don't know. I'm wondering how much the pockets is, so he can put his hand in his pockets so you don't see his hand shaking so much, but yeah.
I don't know. Again, did he act that shaking? Do you see what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
It's hard to tell, because he is older, but when you think of, for example, David Attenborough, he's 90-something. He only really started sounding proper old comparatively recently. When he was Patrick Stewart's age, he didn't sound as old as Patrick Stewart sounds now. Mm-hmm. So the question is, does that mean Patrick Stewart is making Picard sound old? I mean, he's acting weak, he's falling over, do you know what I mean? Mm. Or is it just that people age at different rates?
Well, they do, don't they? So, but who can say, yes. And if because he's got we know he's got some sort of disease, don't we? The character there.
Yes.
Not Patrick Stewart, we hope. So it could be an acting decision on his part to play up the fact that he's an enfeebled person, and I wouldn't completely surprise you, considering they've got other seasons planned, if he gets some sort of miraculous cure at the end and starts playing it a bit younger again. But we shall see.
Yeah, could be. In terms of the budget and for the study, absolutely yes, I do think it's budget saving, but I also think that Picard misses his ready room.
It is a very unusual ready room. To
yeah,
say
but
yes.
I think
a vineyard ready room. Wow. Well, it's different, isn't it? I like that they're doing something different with that. Yeah, interesting the parallels with the ship from Guardians.
Yeah.
Which also has a huge windscreen.
Yeah.
Because that's a thing now. Ships have windscreens. Anyway.
But the spaceships did in Lego. It's just they were yellow.
Yeah. Not sure that was a great design feature either. They were absolutely massive in the Lego ships. But
yeah,
anyway,
that's not just that's the sort of thing I thought of though.
I think it's because they can pull off these things visually a lot more easily than they used to be able to, rather than just having to show a bit of a screen. They can now make it look very pretty in an entire star field taking up one wall of the spaceship. But the fact that it's being completely practical to do so isn't over here nor there, but never mind. And it's good to hear that you don't have to have watched all of Voyager to enjoy this, because let's face it, there aren't very many of us who want to do that, even if we're Star Trek fans.
No.
Some people do indeed love it, of course. But
yeah.
Hello, Drew. And yet the Borg cube looks very atmospheric in tonight's episode as well. They really laid it on thick with tonight's episode, and it looked great. So.
Yes.
But we've also had some feedback on the previous episode from Purry.
Hello, Orcs. Purry here to talk about the latest Piecast episode, Star City Shuffle, something like that. I was going to start the episode with a terrible French accent, but I thought better of it. This one, I did enjoy it, and it definitely wasn't short on action, plot, and intrigue. I think the only thing was there's a couple of bits that were just kind of standing out as kind of making me go, huh? The first was, didn't make me go, it made me go, ugh. The way they offed each chib. I'm not upset that they offed each chip. I think it's the sort of thing you do with a character like that. If we're honest, I'm sure he's someone's favourite, but he was a kind of minor Voyager character. He's got enough presence to make his death emotional, and to give Seven a good drive without necessarily killing off, like, I don't know, someone who people like. So but that was awfully grisly, and I kind of get the idea why. Just again, when things like that happen in Trek, it all stands out a bit. I expect that from my Galacticas and the hundreds, but not necessarily. And it's just to show that these people. It's actually. I mean, the thing is, while I wasn't, maybe it was uncomfortable, I did like the fact that it did illustrate that these people are A, heartless, and B, really don't consider Borg people. Because you wouldn't do that. They'd have at least anaesthetised a person, hopefully. So it did mean that when Seven went on an awesome rampage, you weren't. You weren't, sitting there going, oh, well, maybe she's wrong. You weren't particularly feeling sorry for these people being offed. Picard's accent as well, that bugged me a bit, his terrible French accent. I know he's meant to be playing up, and I think that was what they were going for, was these kind of flamboyant characters, but it just seemed like a really duff French accent. You kind of, they're all worried about, what's his name, Legolas, or whatever he's called, trying to, just stay quiet. But then Picard comes out with his accent, people go, we're doomed. I did actually like the Raffi story, because it is a kind of interesting take. Now, she is kind of known as a conspiracy theorist, we're kind of getting that, but it's sort of like, if you can imagine someone, say, after 9/11, when you had the big anti-Muslim panic, someone going around going, no, this was an inside job by the government or something, and there are people who do that. But particularly, like, straight after the event, you can imagine that that's maybe one of the things that got her family. Also, she possibly withdrew from the world. She does seem like the type to withdraw from the world, so I quite liked how they were kind of building that up in her estranged family, and indeed I'll be interested to see where that goes. Also interesting in this episode, we had none of the sexy siblings, and none of not Daj, the other one, the other twin, which was interesting. It was all actually on this plot. So, but yeah, overall, I mean, for all that I have my misgivings, Jerry Ryan was good. I do still think we're using the chateau ready room just because they built the set and they'll get their money's worth out of it. Yeah, and we also had, of course, we saw Maddox, not the original Maddox, but again, not something that particularly bothers me. Not if he was going to be in it for a long time, maybe, but again, actors change, it happens. It's not like they're recasting Kirk, which we also have seen and coped with. Yeah, it was actually the turn of Agnes, and that surprised. For all that I'd kind of called that there's something up, and I thought it was a bit too convenient she was there. I'm even more, because is she hypnotized? I don't think so. I think, has she been convinced or turned, considering this was her life's work? And this is now a really interesting plot thread, considering, she is still the comedy character. We still have her popping up and struggling with the space pop-ups and that sort of thing. I do like, one of the other things I like is we're seeing the not nice bits of the universe. The Federation. I'm always thinking of Sisko's speech. It's easy to be a saint in paradise, and indeed the idea that yes, on the central planets, obviously everything's lovely and fluffy, but you start getting out and you get these rough areas. We saw that a bit in Deep Space Nine with things like the Orion Syndicate, and so I'm really liking the idea that we're kind of running on the lawless edges of Federation space, or potentially like the borders and that sort of thing, the former neutral zones. So yeah, as always, the series is going well. So please do keep up the good work. I always look forward to the podcast, and I'll feedback probably late for the next one. But until then, bye for now.
Bye.
Thank you all.
You're right that clearly they don't think of the Borg as people. That comes up in tonight's episode as well. That's clearly a key thing. In terms of Agnes as the comedy character, now that we've seen her turn, even though she was crying, I'm seeing kind of parallels with her and Narek, and I'm wondering whether she was ever innocent. So that actually the whole O in the sunglasses might be completely irrelevant, or they're meeting like the sicky, sexy siblings. In other words, was it a planned meeting rather than an unplanned? Do you see what I mean? Is there more? Is she in deeper? Do you know what I mean? Is she more of a plant than she ever had been? Particularly if Maddox was trying to still work on synths when they were banned.
Yeah, we don't know yet, do we? So,
no, but that's what I'm wondering. Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you all. We're now on to tonight's episode, The Impossible Box.
For now.
Oh, really?
My last visit to a Borg cube was not voluntary.
They called you Locutus of Borg. Injected you with nanoprobes, grafted you with synthetic parts, assimilated your mind with theirs. Forgive me, the Borg are mandatory reading in my line of work. It must have been awful. But this cube is cut off from the rest of the collective. They're outcasts, stranded, and under Romulan control. Maybe they've changed.
Change? The Borg? They coolly assimilate entire civilizations, entire systems, in a matter of hours. They don't change. They metastasize.
An arty horror film opening. This episode is really well directed. We have Soji's a child in her father's plant breeding workshop, and you expect Freddy Krueger to pop his claws around the corner at any minute. She's actually in bed with Narek, which isn't his name. I thought he might be a Herbert, but we find out it sounds a bit like Ian. Rather weirdly. Ian the Romulan.
But now you've earwormed me with Herbert. We'll call him Sherbert. It will be Herbert and Sherbert and me.
And we see a wooden artist doll in the corner, which will pay off later on.
Yes.
Which is interesting.
Very Pinocchio. I mean, really in-your-face Pinocchio, isn't it, really?
Yeah, it is.
In a way that it never was quite that in-your-face, I don't think, with Data in Next Gen.
Somewhat. Riker called him Pinocchio in one episode, for heaven's sake.
No, I mean, as in seeing the wooden doll type scenario.
Agnes lies to Picard about Maddox's death.
Well, she's not exactly going to tell the fucking truth, is she?
Nope. Well, apparently not, anyway. The Admiral is understandably not looking forward to having to visit a Borg cube again. No. And he compares them to a cancer, which is an interesting take on them.
Yeah.
Retreating to his holographic study that we like so much. I think just because it looks cool, that's why they're using it. We get a really good, brilliant shot of him looking at his younger self as Locutus being overplayed on his face as it is now. So again, nice direction this episode.
Is it Frakesy? Or
no, Frakesy did the last two. This was Maya Vravillo, who's done a Discovery episode before now.
Well, cool. I like this one.
We get our best look at the La Serena so far, and boy, is it boxy. It reminds me a bit of the Narn ships, actually, from Babylon 5.
Yes, I was thinking that, particularly the design on it as well. The paint job was
Yes,
sort of
that
Narnish,
too,
wasn't
yeah.
it?
Rios is playing Keepy Uppy and being watched and then snogged and then more by Agnes. They go to great lengths to show that she's the one who's instigating it rather than him taking advantage, which I think they need to, because otherwise he's going to feel a bit slimy at this point.
Yeah.
Rizzo is playing with Narek's Rubik's Cube. Or is it the box from Hellraiser?
Yeah, I was thinking that,
Yeah,
actually.
it gets more like that as the episode goes on, doesn't it?
It does, yeah.
He thinks he's worked out how to unlock the location of the android homeworld from Soji. And all the time I'm thinking, how do they know there's more androids in a homeworld and stuff? I mean, so perhaps Soji and Daj were unique like Data was.
Well, I don't know. I mean, you got the whole... Somebody clearly took over the synths, didn't they? That thing with Utopia Phoenicia and all that. So I'm thinking that it's all linked to that somehow, and it's something they've been tracking and either plotting to deal with. They did it, but I think it's connected. So I'm thinking you're talking about years of intelligence gathering.
Mm-hmm. A drunk and high Raffi manages to sweet talk a friendly Starfleet captain into getting Picard clearance from the Federation to visit the Borg reclamation project.
I liked her uniform.
Yes, that's the current one. It's pretty good. We get another scene of Rios being sweet, this time tucking Raffi in and reassuring her that we all make mistakes, in reference to her son. We hear Soji fall asleep talking to her mum again. Apparently every call only lasts 70 seconds before this happens.
Yeah.
Which is all a bit sus. There's a really cool ominous musical sting as La Serena approaches the cube. Picard reflects on having to beam over alone. He gets flashbacks of Borg, some of which I think may have been shots from First Contact, I suspect.
Yes, I think so. But I think there is, but particularly the sounds that he hears later.
Yeah, they're reusing the old sound design, which is good.
But some of them are from Next Gen episodes. Some of them are from the films. It is a mixture in terms of what he hears in his head, and I think the shots are a mixture as well of Best of Both Worlds.
No, there's no Best of Both Worlds shots because they all look very different in that. So
okay. But I think some of the dialogue is Best of Both Worlds dialogue. You know, he hears sort of overlaid snippets.
Right. The sound design on the cube is great, with its shifting walls clicking away. That's really eerie and great. The lighting is, fantastic. Picard is reunited with Hugh, and they share a very sweet hug.
I like that.
Yeah. Because up till now, practically everybody's met has hated his guts. It's quite nice for him to have
and he
a nice...
does actually say a friendly face is most welcome.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Soji dates her childhood books and pictures and cuddly toy and discovers they're all 37 months old.
Very, very Blade Runner.
It is extremely so, yes. And we also get the false memories thing as well when she talks to Narek. He suggests a taboo Romulan meditation technique called the Zal Mach or something.
This is all going a bit Klingon quite quickly, isn't it?
Yeah, it's the way TNG and DS9 was about Klingons with a new ritual every week.
Yes, yes.
But there we go. It's about time Romulan's got more traditions and stuff, I guess. Hugh wants Picard to become an advocate for freedom for the XBs.
Which I like that as the free Borg and all the rest of it.
Well, the XBs do sound like they ought to have been a group in the 70s, but there you go.
Yeah.
Rios brings Raffi a coffee and points out that she owes him latinum due to a bet on Soji being alive or not. So that seems to be a currency Federation citizens use now, interestingly.
Well, it's the only currency available to them, I would think.
Well, they could have had their own, but no, they've gone with latinum.
But if they use latinum, that kind of makes sense because you had the whole on Deep Space Nine, the whole fudge of quite how things got paid, and Quark would only have accepted latinum. So given this is set after Deep Space Nine, the idea that at the edges of the galaxy, where you have things like Orion Syndicate and whatever...
Yeah, except Raffi's comes from Earth, so she's not exactly on the edges, is she?
Well, no, but she's been living on the edges for a while. And if they must have had to have a way of, even if they're currency free within the Federation, they must have had a way to dealing.
They're clearly not anymore, because otherwise why would she be living in that trailer, effectively a trailer park? You don't have trailer parks if there are no currency, do you? So it's clear the Federation have gone back to currency again.
But what they're using is something that's in Star Trek canon.
Mm-hmm. Narek tells Soji his true name, which, as I say, sounds like Ian.
Yeah.
And it turns out that the Zalmak is a labyrinth prayer meditation type thing.
Yeah.
Which was de rigueur in cathedrals a few years back. I notice it's kind of dropped out of fashion now. But yes, this whole idea is you walk around and pray, or in this case, meditate.
Yeah.
Apparently this lets her relive her horror film dream and gives details of where she's from. Her father's face is blanked out, which is nicely done.
Yeah.
And she sees what looks like a life-size wooden artist doll on the table, which is a cool callback to earlier in the episode.
Yep.
She describes where she is, and Rizzo is off to find out where fits that description. Google, presumably.
It just made me think of Star Wars, though, and what planet looks like that. Do you remember which prequel was it with the fucking chicken?
What?
Oh, he goes to meet a fucking chicken.
No, you mean in Attack of the Clones, and he isn't a chicken. He's got 4 arms. Chickens don't have any arms. I mean...
Oh, I just thought he looked like a fucking chicken. Anyway.
Okay.
Sorry. It just, unfortunately, the whole thing about where is that or whatever, it took me to a fucking chicken place.
Attack of the Clones place, that's never good. Anyway.
No, it isn't. It's the worst of them all.
Narrator brutally tells her that she's not real, and he leaves, locking her in with the puzzle box.
It's a shame he didn't just turn around to her and go, "You're not reality, darling."
It's about to tear her soul apart. Well, it releases a red smoke that doesn't look very good and is apparently radiation.
Made me think of Nemesis.
Exactly, say it quietly, but yeah.
They killed Jim from Neighbours.
Oh, how dare they? Yes, it's not Nemesis' greatest crime, but yeah, it's up there. Anyway, she escapes by breaking through the floor, which is cool.
I like that. Very Data, isn't it?
Mm-hmm. Picard and Hugh find her, but Narek has raised the alarm. There's another Voyager reference as Hugh takes them to the Queen's chamber and activates a Sikaran spatial trajector. They were raced in the Delta Quadrant that Voyager met in its first season.
Right, I didn't remember that. It didn't bother me. I mean, at the end of the day,
they're one episode wondering Voyager. So whoever's writing this is clearly a really deep Voyager fan.
Yeah, but it doesn't bother me because the concept that the Borg assimilate other races and nick their shit, that's fine. So all you need to tell is they assimilated this race and here is their shit. It's like, if you're a Voyager fan, that's going to be a nice callback. But it's like Martin was saying, you don't have to know the stuff to understand the references they're making.
Elnor arrives and messily dispatches 2 Romulans who are about to attack Picard and co. He holds off the guards whilst he and Soji step through the portal, planning on travelling to... No, it wasn't Rurapenthe, but it sounded like it.
It did!
Nepenthe, I think.
Oh, maybe that's like, you've got like Little Cumberton and Great Cumberton.
Possibly. Perhaps it's the orbiting warmer world, I don't know.
Yeah.
And that's our episode. I thought it was a sort of slow start and it sort of just picked up speed as it went along nicely. I thought it was really well paced, really well directed and lit and shot and acted as usual. So yeah another good episode.
There's certain particular bits that I like, sort of. So I really liked that not the way they did it, that it was in the same way as when he's having the flashbacks, they're all very quick and a mishmash. They did the same with the sound. I really like that. I like the fact that when Raffi is talking about Picard and it's like, what's not made up of, what is it, raging ego is rampaging id or something like that. I like that. That was funny. I like Patrick Stewart's reaction. Do you know what I mean? The way he plays the response. I thought that was good. I really liked the warmth between Picard and Hugh.
Yes, that was nice.
I liked that Hugh was like, I don't care why you're here, I'm going to help you, but you can help me. And although Picard in the previous episode is all like, they're not human, he then says, no, they're not, underneath the Borg are not monsters but victims. And he's beginning to understand. And Hugh's like, you can work towards a free Borg. And my kind of thinking is that probably we're not going to see that this season. But I wouldn't be surprised if that's what we see for season 2. Because I think it's deliberately sowing seeds, and I think that the way Patrick Stewart is portraying it is that this is sowed a seed. The other thing that I liked was the whole labyrinth thing. Yes, it's just a bloody labyrinth, and yes, it's another bloody ritual. But I like the idea that Narek, he's like, it would be easy to dismiss him or to say, oh yes, he truly loved her or whatever. But when he's talking to his sister, it's clear that he is bright, and he says, no, you just got to do it the right way, you just got to be patient. And he's actually really quite nasty, because you can see when he gets her in there And it's really easy to see it like, oh, he does love her really, and he's helping her. You find he's put her in a place they can't even bloody sense where she is. He's clearly planned this all, for a long time and been patient and thought it through. And then he's like, what's it, Agnes? Agnes is all crying because she's killing Maddox, and he's all tears in her eyes because it's like, if you care, fucking don't do it, you dipshits. Otherwise, I don't care how many tears you cry. They're fucking crocodile tears, and I'm going to come and lamp you.
Oh, right. Okay.
Sorry.
Right. Well, anyway, let's find out what Doreen thought.
And she says, Agnes, liar, liar, pants on fire.
Yeah, we've had that song before as well.
Yeah. Do androids dream of cognitive dissonance? Good question. Like it. So Picard is going to use the Kotomalat way to get onto the artefact. So he's going to claim to be on a diplomatic mission. Picard's definition of absolute candour must be very different from mine. That's a good point. He says he's going to go there openly, and then he lies.
Yeah, well, he does, because originally they were going to pretend to be other people, so he's going there as himself because he knows they're going to recognise him anyway. So
okay,
to that extent, it's all open. I mean, he obviously doesn't give his reasons, but
yeah, but it doesn't fit with absolute candour. You're right. The scenes when Picard was boarding the artefact were very well done. Yes, very much so. Are the writers equating Borg with today's drug addicts? Do you think
they're going more for a cancer element on this? That whole metastasis and all that. That's a cancer thing. So that's interesting because they've not really been referred to as that before now. But, interesting.
And Doreen says, I like the ending. The effect of the fade to black was spoiled by Amazon putting a viewing suggestion in the bottom right corner. I completely agree. Pissed me off as well. Sorry, I'm a bit angry.
You are tonight, are you? Blimey. Okay. We also heard from Martin Thompson on this episode.
Hello, good evening, Peter and Anne-Marie. It's Martin Thompson here, so if you're not already sick of my voice after the last feedback I sent you for the first 5 episodes, and I'm sure you certainly will be now, as I've actually watched the episode today. I was able to watch it on the commute. I hope the sound levels are okay in here. I'm actually sat in one of our phone booths at work. A phone booth these days is somewhere where you go to talk on your mobile phone. So how things have moved on, I don't know whether that's for the better, but it's apparently a thing now. A couple of things. SFX is 25 years old apparently this year, and the latest issue has a picture of one of the defining shows of the 90s, and that is Star Trek Voyager. Yes, Voyager. Of all the shows, I can't believe they put Voyager on the cover. I've not seen the cast of Voyager smiling out at me from a magazine in 20 odd years. I don't know why. I've also been watching some episodes from the first season of Next Gen on Netflix. So I've been hoping just to try and see a bit more of Next Gen when I can. Right, anyway, on to Picard episode 6, The Undiscovered Country, or The Mysterious Box, as it was. Well, I thought this was a cracking episode. I really enjoyed it. This was quite almost like a mid-season finale, almost. We got to the Borg cube, all the characters interacted, the two halves of the story gelled. And I thought it was some great action as well. Picard's time with the Borg has obviously hurt him. So I don't know whether he talked about it a lot in The Next Generation or whether they're just doing it through now. But it's some great stuff from Patrick Stewart, I thought, in portraying PTSD. I mean, there was a guy as well who said hello to Locutus. I don't know whether that was a reference or a cameo or something you should get. I mean, I know Locutus, he was Locutus of Borg. But I don't know about whether this was any significance. But yes, I mean, there's a shot near the beginning as well. You see the shot of Locutus merged into Picard as he is now. I thought it was very good. I thought it was a very well directed episode, this one. The Soji and Narek scenes as well, very effective. I mean, yeah, we've seen the kind of the dream walk before, but again, it was still very good. That kind of, at least we didn't see Soji with kind of wires coming out of her. We saw like a wooden kind of, almost like a Pinocchio kind of wooden doll thing, which was quite creepy. And the way he kind of gassed her afterwards was obviously affecting him. He's obviously fallen for her by now. And the way she hammered through the floor to get away from him and escape from Picard, I thought was a smashing scene as well. There's a few conveniences. Yeah, of course, we managed to find the transporter to get us out here. I mean, there's no transporters on any other ships that can take us anywhere. But we're just using the Borg tech. I suppose it means to an end, wasn't it? And of course, there's no time to tell poor old Hugh anything, even though there was. And of course, Sauron pops up to save the day, even though he was told to stay on the ship. But we knew that was going to happen anyway. Yeah, there's a few things that, if you're familiar with the kind of tropes of these shows, that you notice, but it was put off with such fervour. I think it's okay. But yeah, we kind of pushed the story along now, so it's again, it kind of just remains to be seen. Well, where do we go from here? Bruce Maddox is dead. We found Soji, so where do we go from here? That's Picard. Episode 7 is Generations. We find ourselves in the Nexus again with Kirk. Although I doubt that will happen, somewhat. Not much for some of the other characters on board ship to do, really. Though they did get, at least they got some things to do, some scenes in that. And Raffi has obviously taken her son's rejection to heart. But nope, you're the tech geek. You have to carry on and do computers for us. But, I thought this was a good episode. I thought it was very well directed. We'll see where we go from here. And although Picard doesn't seem to be shuffling around the cube like his hands in his pockets like he's at a garden centre. For some reason. All right, so I hope to feed back to the next one. I hope this hasn't sounded too garbled. Thank you. Cheers. Bye.
Yeah, I love the idea of a Borgcast centre. A bunch of gnomes with like holographic things on them. Simulate our bargains on aisle 4.
Wow. Yes, I think we all knew that Eleanor, as I call him, was going to come and help. Mm-hmm. I think if you're familiar with tropes, you don't even have to have watched Star Trek before. It's just a trope in so many genres, isn't it? Mm-hmm. The Hello Locutus.
Yeah, that was a bit random, wasn't it?
It was.
Just some dude going, "Hello Locutus." I remember you. Have you not, Gav? Because I assumed that was going to go somewhere, and it didn't. It was just...
No, it was just, hello. Quite bizarre. And no, they're not going to the Nexus. I'm not having it. I'm not having it. I'm angry enough tonight.
Yeah, that was...
Just no.
Yes, blood vessels would burst next week, I think, if that were the case. If you're re-watching... not re-watching, because it's the first time for some, isn't it? If you're watching Next Generation...
Start with season 2.
Yeah, start with season 2. Yeah, some episodes where you get... Obviously, you got Best of Both Worlds Part 1 and 2, but then the following episode, which is the second episode of season 4, Family, that deals with the repercussions of him being Locutus in an unusually, dense bit of continuity, actually, for Next Generation. Yeah. That was pretty good. Also worth checking out, is it iBorg?
Yeah.
In it? Yeah, iBorg. Less so Descent Part 1 and 2, because they're a bit naff, actually, but they also have Hugh in them as well. But yeah. Well, not very much, as it turns out.
No. And don't ask me the names of the Voyager ones.
Oh, there are a few.
There are a few.
But the Borg are so crap in them. It's better to ignore the Borg in Voyager, really. Yes. Okay, thank you, sir.
Thank you. What did the Llama God make of this?
Llama God's like, Scotty, Ficket, figures the shack. Get to the Argo. Okay, then here we are. The action is really starting to hot up a bit now, isn't it? In an episode that somehow feels like it's got more content in it than previous episodes, although that could be because this episode is actually a good 10 or 15 minutes longer than the previous episodes. That took me by surprise, actually. As Narek caused the gas to be released in the meditation chamber, I was really thinking the episode was going to end there on a cliffhanger, but no, it kept going. So clearly they're doing the playing with the whole format thing that also happens a lot on Netflix, so episodes don't have to be 45 minutes in length, as they would have previously had to have been for broadcast television, and I was quite surprised that actually we had uniform 45-minute episodes before this, but there you go. Anyway, the episode itself, like the previous episodes, this one starts with a flashback as well, but this time it's not a flashback to 14 years ago, it's a flashback to the inside of Soji's head, and yes, we're finally getting some movement on that plot. In some respects it's a little frustrating, because obviously we, the viewers, already know that Soji isn't what she thinks she is, and I guess the interest here is in finding out what she does when she comes to learn the truth about who she is, and there's been some frustration that it's taken quite as long as it has, but I think they handled it quite well in this episode, with her slowly uncovering the fact that things weren't as they seemed. I was quite surprised that she didn't actually turn that scan on herself and find out that she was also 37 months old. I guess that even for an android she's not all that bright. But there was a nice tension to her voyage of discovery, to discovering who she was, and so yeah, it helped to really notch up the general feeling of increased pace in this episode, and that was good, and I appreciated that. And now that she does know who she is, hopefully things are going to start moving forward a hell of a lot quicker. I mean, they've got to. We've only got 2 episodes left. At the moment, it really does feel like we're going to end the season on a cliffhanger without very much resolved. So yeah, we'll see about that, won't we? But the pace has accelerated, so we'll see. I did like that scene in the Romulan meditation chamber, as well as calling into question how much Narek is actually lying to her and how much of the truth he's telling her. Maybe there's a little bit of both, and the vain hope that he wasn't going to betray her. It was also just nice to see this other side, as I said in the previous one with the warrior nuns. It was also nice to see this other side of the Romulan culture. Again, not just beige and stuffy. Scheming diplomats, they do have these vestiges of their more introspective, meditative, spiritual past that they would have obviously brought with them from Vulcan. So again, as we're deepening the understanding of the Romulan culture, this has really been good to see. The stuff from the art attack was also great as well. Seeing Picard's responses was actually really well done in this episode. Okay, admittedly, there's a bit of a weird thing where they asked him to teleport somewhere where there was no one to greet him near the middle of a really big chasm. I mean, that's not exactly going to put him at his ease, although maybe that's something that the Romulans themselves came up with deliberately so that he wouldn't feel at ease. So yeah, maybe that was part of a ploy. But Picard's actual unease at being back in a place where he was treated so badly, I mean, this is the first time he's been back to a Borg cube since the Best of Both Worlds, because he wasn't really on a proper one, just on his assimilated ship in First Contact. But this actually shows what the trauma would actually do to him. He's not the gung-ho action hero, you know. This is a more realistic response than the one that he showed in First Contact. Yeah, sure, it's not as cinematic, it's not going to sell as many tickets to get bums on seats while people are munching on popcorn, but as a story, as drama, this was much better handled this time, and I really liked Patrick Stewart's performance. And I loved his interactions with Hugh, and how, despite the fact that he starts off the episode back to being his racist Borg-hating ways that we saw from Borg and a bit of in Dissent as well. Oh, and I guess also ruthlessly gunning down loads of Borg is also slightly racist and not really very compassionate, so yeah, I guess there's that as well, isn't there? But it was good to see his manner change when he realised that, yeah, the Borg themselves are also victims of their own circumstances, and that's an important message to take away, especially in these times, is that even on opposing sides in warfare, or opposing sides of an argument, the person on the other side is still a person, and it's these kind of arguments that Trek can do best, and I think this is one of the more Trekkier episodes that we've had in the series so far, in just putting that message there and putting that across and making people think, and I really like that. And seeing Picard soften to them, seeing him understand the good work that's going on there, that's the actual hopeful federation that Picard was fighting for. To see something alive there somewhere, that was really positive and a great thing to see, and that was even better than the action. So no, I really loved everything they did on the Borg ship. It was also good to see sexy Alron get something to do this week. I mean, yeah, there's a bit more gore, but you know, he's a ninja assassin bodyguard, so yeah, that's what he's going to do. Still didn't get a whole lot to do, but it's good to see we get starting to understand who he is. And Agnes remains a mystery. She could just be a very damaged human, obviously seeking sex and solace to help her not feel what she's actually feeling for a while. Or is it a deliberate ploy of manipulation? I don't know. It's a very interesting conundrum, and I will be intrigued to see where they go with this. So yeah, so no space battles this week, but also no gory dismemberment, so you know, that's a general win from me. So yeah, enjoying this. Concerned, as I say, how they're going to wrap this up in 2 episodes time, and I really think they're not going to, but yeah, we'll see. Looking forward to seeing the next week's episode, and once again, I'm looking forward to hearing what everyone else has to say. And until next week, glory to you and your cast.
Thank you. That's a bloody good point. Why did she not turn the scanner on herself?
I was kind of expecting her to do it, but yeah, she doesn't at any point, which is a bit weird.
Yeah. And yeah, you're right. Picard's response in this to being on the Borg cube is much more realistic than the response in First Contact. I mean, he does still respond in First Contact because he has the little ships in the scene with Lily and all the rest of it. It's not that there's no response, they don't deal with it, but this response is more realistic. And you're right, the person on the other side is still a person.
A victim.
And a victim is, very Trek.
Yeah.
And yeah, my own feeling at the moment, Agnes is totally manipulating. Her name is Rio, and she dances on the sand.
Yeah, it's interesting. It's how much of this she's doing it consciously. That was always her plan, and how much of it is actually she's in a similar state to Soji. You know, so doing stuff without realizing why. You're programmed effectively to.
Oh yeah, okay. She could potentially be a victim.
She could be.
Yeah, you're right. She could be.
It could be those sunglasses still. You see, that's my theory.
Ah, brainwashing sunglasses.
Yeah, that's it.
Hypnotoad.
All hail the Hypno-O. Yeah, no, I don't think everybody's agreed. It was a jolly, splendid episode.
And everybody agreed it was really well directed as well.
Yeah. We shall be recording next Friday, I believe, the next episode.
Yes.
That's the plan. But if you've got any thoughts on tonight's episode that you haven't had a chance to send in, do feel free to send them and we'll look at them at the beginning of the next episode. We'll catch you next time. Cheery bye.
Bye.
All music referenced is for illustrative purposes only, and no copyright infringement is intended.
Find our website at borgcast.libsyn.com.
And we have a YouTube channel as well.
You can find the Borgcast playouts on Spotify for your listening pleasure.
Visit our Tumblr site at borgcast.tumblr.com, where you'll find images accompanying the episodes discussed in this cast.
Send emails or MP3s to borgcast@gmail.com.
Or you can contact us via Twitter on rev_org or borgcastammo. #Borgcast.
Shut it down!